taking a big sip there. Welcome back to Sippin With Sin, everybody. I hope you're doing awesome. Thanks for tuning in for another episode of the podcast. We're happy to have you back listening to us and all our shenanigans. Thanks for the love on the first 6 episodes so far. We do really appreciate it. Continue to spread the word. Let's continue to grow this family. But we have a fun-filled episode. A lot of stuff was announced this here recently. At the time of recording this, the last day of March is when we're recording this episode, and a lot of announcements and some news and things happened, and we're gonna touch base on it. But without further ado, let's get back our esteemed colleague, the one and only Christian. Sir?
Hello. How's everybody doing tonight?
Is it nighttime? It's nighttime. Okay.
I mean, it's close enough.
Yeah, true. You're not wrong. But how are you doing, sir? How's everything going?
Doing well, man. I'm excited to get on the podcast this week, talk about some cool stuff, nerd out a little bit. You know how I do.
Okay. All right. Well, as you know, and we're customary to do, we like to know what you've been watching, reading, listening to, or playing lately. So do you have anything that you've been into this past week or so, or lately, or what's been going on with you?
Yeah, man. I've been watching Game of Thrones again, obviously. I just finished season 3. I'm just, powering through the show. It's really fun to rewatch this show. And I'm also kind of gearing up for the new Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, coming out right after my birthday. So that's August 21st, I believe, is when it's dropping. So I can't wait for that. Hopefully it's good.
I hope it's good, too. It covers the Targaryens, correct? Isn't that what House of Dragon is? Obviously, dragons, Targaryen. So it's like backstory on them or their
early
lineage.
story for them. The only thing, I only know 2 things about this show. One is it's not the original show we were supposed to get because they canceled whatever that was. And then 2, it's got Matt Smith in it. So I'm in.
Didn't they spend like $30 million on the original show we were supposed to get, and then it got canceled or something for like a pilot? They spent like a crazy amount of money. And
it's Hollywood. They probably sacrificed a couple babies. You don't know.
Oh, it got serious in there. Okay. All right. So House of the Dragon, get ready for that. Game of Thrones. Gotcha. All right. I'm interested in it. I really liked Game of Thrones. I know that's probably something people don't want to hear, but I did. I was a big fan of it. So I'm excited. I hope it's good, and I hope it I hope it lives up.
I mean, Game of Thrones, like I said, I'm only on season 3, so everybody's still kind of green. Like he's lost his hand. Tyrion's got the scar on his face. But like the thing is, if you read the books, it's a lot different. Like Tyrion is like the best character one of the best.
Have you read the books?
I have read not all the books, no, but I've read the first 2 books. Full disclosure. I read the first book. I read a bunch of the second book and then pieces of the subsequent book. So I don't have the full story, but what I do have.
Why didn't you read a whole book? Why'd you skip?
I ended up skipping because people just kept telling me what was happening because, I was reading some of this when the show was still out and, people just love ruining stuff.
Hey, Ned Stark, he becomes the king.
Yeah, you totally know what I'm saying, man. People just tell me so much, so I'm like, why am I even reading this? And then, it's an easy read. Like the books are an easy read, but it's definitely different. So if you're a person who doesn't like, sexual assault, then that's all up in this book, all up in these books. Like it doesn't happen as much as you think it does, but it is mentioned quite a bit. Like people saying that they will do it. And talking about it happening, like that happens a lot. So, I mean, that's something that you got to, be prepared for going into these books. And also, like, the characters are younger in the books. So, like, all the stuff happening with Sansa, I think she's 13 or 14 in the show. I think she's 14 in the show. In the books, I think she's, like, 12 or 13. I can't remember. It's just not the culture that I'm used to. So, it's a little different. And then also, like, Tyrion is a piece of shit in the books. Like, he's not a good person at all. He's practically tiny Tywin, and I didn't even mean for that to sound like it does, knowing what kind of person Tyrion is. But he's just Tywin, but sad. So it's man. But I mean that's a story for another day. Like
If we ever
It's
did a
great.
Game of Thrones episode, we should totally get Mrs. Sin to join because she's read all the books multiple times. So anytime like I need to reference back to something or I need to ask a question, like when they announced House of Dragon, I was like, hey, such and such character. And she was like, yeah, that's blah, blah, blah. And she would just, I'm like, okay, cool. So like she knows the stuff pretty well. So if we ever do a Game of Thrones episode, we should make her join and be our book.
I mean, we can't make her join, but we can ask her.
Well, we can ask her. Be like, hey, lady, can you please join possibly? And she'll probably be like, no, because she's mean. But no, I'm just kidding. She's awesome.
Yeah, she's pretty dope. I would love that actually. Like, I hope that the listeners and the viewers kind of vote that and comment that into existence because that would be super fun. But enough about me, man. What are you watching?
Okay. Well, so at this time, again, WrestleMania hasn't started yet. I know the episodes are all messed up because 2 episodes previous, we had our WrestleMania predictions, and then last one was the St. Patty's Day. We're sorry, recording stuff ahead of time, trying to get ahead. There's stuff coming up and scheduling, so WrestleMania is coming up this weekend, and we're preparing to do stuff around that. So me and the little man have been watching old WrestleManias, actually.
Nice.
We've watched, like, WrestleMania 25, 6, 7, and 8 so far, and part of 1. And then we're just kind of picking random ones and going through and watching. And it's been fun. And for some reason, a 4-month-old likes to stare at the TV and watch that, and he gets excited. And we've even named him the Baby Incarnate instead of the Beast Incarnate like Brock Lesnar. And I don't know, there's a whole bunch of stuff. He's been having fun with it. We've been having fun. So been doing that. Been watching Halo series, of course, which I am not going to talk about that much. But I'm staying open-minded to it, and I'm watching it. That will be a whole nother topic we will discuss very soon. Once I get a few more episodes in and can not just have like a rash decision one way or the other. I've been watching Halo, and then, of course, watched the first episode of Moon Knight, which I was really excited about. I went in knowing nothing, and I liked it. And that brings us to our first topic, does it not?
It does.
Moon Knight.
Man,
Excited.
I'll tell you what, dude. I enjoyed the first episode of Moon Knight. I've been hearing mixed things. Like, I did hear a couple people say that they loved it. I heard a couple people say it was cool, and then I heard a couple people say that they didn't like it. And I mean, I think everybody is valid to their own opinion. I really valid to their own opinion. I don't think that makes sense, but I think that everybody is entitled to their own opinion. And I believe that some opinions of people not liking the first episode does make a lot of sense, especially if you don't know much about the character to begin with. Then I can absolutely see confusion there, and then some discomfort, some dislike. I can totally understand that.
Okay.
How'd you feel?
Okay. Like I said, I know nothing. I knew he was from Marvel. I think someone do what?
I said, nothing, Jon Snow.
I know nothing. I actually didn't know. Shout out to TJ, Living Tej. He's a huge Moon Knight fan. I know you knew stuff about Moon Knight. I've seen him in passing. I've never really read any of his stories or anything. Don't know much of anything. I know he appeared in Werewolf by Night, which I like, and I like to collect that series. I have very few issues, but I think that's a dope series to collect, and I know that was his first appearance. Past that, I really didn't know anything at all. I'd heard, maybe you told me or somebody told me, he had schizophrenia is not the right word. It's like a different disorder where personalities, I can't think of, dissociative identity disorder. There we go. He has that or something, I think. And I knew it had something to do with Egyptian mythology, I believe. And I definitely got that in the first episode. As someone that knew nothing, and I can say this is the same for my wife because we watched together last night. We both really enjoyed the first episode. I, for one, really liked the blackouts. I thought that was really cool in the fact that, Steven is here, he's present, and you're seeing whatever's happening. Because I'm trying not to give spoilers of the first episode. He's seeing whatever's happening, and then it's like a snap, like a brief thing, and then something else is happening, and you're like, what's going on? And you have that confusion, the chaos, I don't understand what's happening. And they kind of led up to that. I thought that's cool. Of course, I don't know anything about the Ethan Hawke's character, the bad guy. I have an idea possibly who it could
For
be.
sure, yeah.
I know I'm assuming he's an Egyptian god because I'm having a feeling that's what Moon Knight kind of goes against. I could be super wrong, and you could tell me I'm a complete idiot in a minute. I don't know. That's kind of the feeling I got. But I actually really liked it as someone that knows nothing about it. And after it ended, I wanted more immediately. I was like, okay, I would totally binge this right now if I had all the episodes. Like, I want to know more.
Absolutely.
I want to consume more content about Moon Knight after watching that. And that was my opinion of it. And she felt the same.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense. I will say, like, the Marvel shows, almost all of the Marvel shows are really good to binge, you know? And I think that they really do themselves a disservice by giving you one episode a week. Like, I understand the reasoning for it, but I'm so thankful that Moon Knight is only a 6 episode show, so I only got 6 weeks and then we're done, right?
Why are you
So
thankful for that, though? Do you not want more Moon Knight, or do you just think they'll drag it out and it won't be as good?
I'm glad that it's only 6 episodes because they can't afford to drag the show out too much. You know, you only got 6 episodes to introduce this character, to give us some semblance of a backstory, to show us what he does, how he does it, what his powers are, who his enemies are, and how he's going to integrate himself, hopefully, into the broader MCU. So I'm really excited for these, next 5 episodes to really step up the game of the story. With that said, though, I agree with you, man. It's fantastic. It was enjoyable to a T. The only thing that I can say as a comic fan, as a Moon Knight fan, that I didn't necessarily like about the first episode was we don't really see Moon Knight until, like, I mean, trying not to spoil stuff, but I'm kind of going to. So here's your warning.
Yeah.
Like, we don't see Moon Knight until the very last, like, what, 5 seconds of the episode. And all of that's in the trailers. Like, if you've seen any of the trailers, you've
Yeah.
seen about what you're going to see from him. Um, so I didn't really enjoy that. And, like, though I think it looks really cool, I'm not a super big fan of the wraps forming around him to be the costume. Like, because that's just not the Moon Knight that I'm used to. But I'm sure I'll get over it in another episode or so.
Is
So
it like
it's not
mummy wraps or something? Is that going
Yeah, I
more
think
into the Egyptian style of it?
Yeah, I think that's the point, is for it
Okay.
to have that look, to have that feel to it. Um, with that said, man, I really liked the Stephen Grant character. He was absolutely different from how he is in the comic. Like, Stephen Grant in the comics is like Bruce Wayne, rich playboy philanthropist character. Totally got something going on behind his eyes. You can tell that there's something there. But this
Do we
Stephen
say
Grant's like a
if
bumbling.
Steven in the show is rich? They don't really.
No, he works.
I know he
They
works.
don't.
He works at the museum, but when he goes to his apartment, like, he's not poor.
Right.
So I
And
mean,
I think that's because, like, we'll get more of Stephen Grant coming up. Like, so in the comics, he has more than two personalities, right? Like, and without, talking about it forever, Mark Spector is like the main version of the character. He's a mercenary in the comics. He dies. He meets Khonshu, the Egyptian goddess of vengeance, at first in the moon, and he offers him a second chance at life to be his vengeance, to be his fist, right? Fist of vengeance.
vengeance.
So yeah, exactly. So he does that, and then that's when he becomes Moon Knight, and he uses different personas, namely Stephen Grant and such, to to kind of get different points. He acts like Stephen Grant to get things going on the rich side of things, to see what's going on. He has other personas to figure out, like he's a cab driver in one, and he like low level, low tech kind of stuff to see what's going on
Cab
the low
driver's
ground.
Jake, isn't it? Is that right?
Yeah, Lockley. Yeah,
Okay.
that's correct. So he has different personas, and then eventually it becomes too much, and he forgets who he is, and like those become full on personalities, and he has dissociative identity disorder. I think when the comic started off, it was like schizophrenia, and they kind of evolved the character since then
Yeah.
with stories from like Jeff Lemire and all that, and then the ongoing run right now, which is fantastic, and you should be reading it if you're not. But with all that said, dude, Khonshu, for an example, Khonshu in this show is hilarious. and he's pretty much Venom. Like how if
Okay.
you've seen the Venom film, he's just Venom, right? He
I have
he
my
talks.
hand. Well, okay. I have my hand raised on that one. So
Yeah,
it's really funny you say he's Venom. While we were watching, that is exactly what Mrs. Sin said. Like, I'm guessing Khonshu is the voice that we're hearing
yeah,
whenever
for sure.
he's like talking. I'm assuming Mark and Steven's just clueless, not sure what these voices are.
Hmm.
But whenever we're hearing the voices, she said, I'm getting a super Venom vibe. Like, this is giving me, like, I feel like this is Venom. And how they're doing it
Yeah,
with, like, the voice and all that stuff.
yeah, and I think that that's for a reason. It's kind of like Marvel poking fun at Sony, like this is how you actually do this. See, it's kind of what the feeling that I was getting. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Absolutely
Did he
right.
sound like Bane to you
Um,
a little bit? In,
I
in, Dark Knight Rises?
yeah, I can see that. I think any Tom Hardy accent kind of makes sense. You just kind of it does just sound like Tom Hardy for sure. I'm assuming that it's actually I'm not assuming it's definitely a different actor doing the voice of Khonshu, that's for sure. But with that said, like yeah, it definitely gives you those vibes, and I think that's like I said on purpose. It's kind of crazy how that works, you know. But also just thinking about it, like the show, we only get one episode, right? So I'm thinking of certain things when I'm seeing it. I'm like, why does Stephen Grant have an accent? I know he's in London, but why does he have an accent? Is it so he can blend in? Like they don't really talk about it. I really like the snapping back and forth that you were just talking about when he kind of alters out, loses time.
Yes.
I really like the fact that he kind of chains himself up at night, kind of like a werewolf, which hopefully we'll get Werewolf by Night in this at some point. I like
What?
the sand tricks that
There's
he
no shot
uses.
we'll get that. Is there?
I mean, there's got to be like they're perfectly building up the Midnight Suns. Like we just got um, Blade, at least his voice in the Eternals. We have Moon Knight now. Moon Knight was legit a feature in Werewolf by Night and became so popular that he got his own stuff. So
Was
like
okay, in Werewolf by Night, was Moon Knight a villain?
essentially, yeah, like I don't want to say it wrong because I don't have that in front of me, and it's been so long since I read that like online. Like I read the issue online years and years ago. But yeah, he was the antagonist, right, to Werewolf by Night. And then the other funny thing is Werewolf by Night's actual name is like Jack Russell, dude. Like that's ridiculous.
Oh my god. Like Jack Russell
Anyway,
Terrier?
yeah, exactly.
Oh
But
my
he's a
god.
werewolf. That's crazy. But anyway, like I really enjoyed those scenes, and I think that they're building up to Midnight Suns for sure. It just makes perfect sense.
And
Like
what's
I
Midnight
don't
Suns?
Midnight Suns is the like group, the superhero team up with these characters. So you
Oh.
have Werewolf by Night, Blade. You have Moon Knight's in it. I think Ghost Rider was in it at one point. Doctor Strange was in it. I think at one point Morbius was in it. So there, I mean, all the characters that are in it have been either mentioned, hinted towards, or coming out for sure within the greater MCU here soon. So
Okay.
I think that that's what they're doing with this. And like I said, first episode was good, man. I really liked it. Khonshu looked kind of cool. He looked pretty close to how he looks in the comics, so that was awesome.
Where
Um,
was Khonshu?
Khonshu is that weird, like skull-shaped figure that kept walking towards him in the show. That's Khonshu.
Oh, okay, okay. I wondered what that was. It has like the I'm trying to think of what that mask is. It's like a big bird looking thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It kind of looks like a vulture almost.
Yeah.
That's
Okay,
definitely
so
that
that's
is 100%.
Khonshu.
Yeah,
Oh,
but
okay.
nobody can see it because Khonshu is in Mark's head. so,
As is probably a
so
lot
yeah.
of stuff.
Yeah, and like that was another thing. Like when the character first came about and got his original origin, like he was powered by the phases of the moon. So when it's a full moon out is when he was at his strongest, essentially.
Hmm.
Um, so I mean, I don't know if they're going to put any of that in the show. We'll see because the way that they talk about it and the way that they've shown us things haven't been like that. So we'll see what's going on, man. And I really liked. I forgot to mention the scene where he's late for his date by like a couple days. I love that scene.
Yeah.
It was just like super sad, kind of relatable, but also just like that
You
was
feel
that was
bad for
act-
him.
Yeah, of
Oh,
course.
poor guy.
That's like a whole thing, right? In all the Marvel movies, we always feel bad for those characters, right? We feel bad for Peter Parker, Spider-Man. We feel bad for Bucky. We feel bad for Cap because he's like fish out of water, out of time. We feel bad for pretty any. You can insert almost any major Marvel hero, and we feel bad for them at some point for something because they're just meant to be super relatable. But like I said, man, I really like the show. I can't wait to see Mr. Knight. Mr. Knight is another persona that is kind of a mixture of Moon Knight and Stephen Grant, or I'm sorry, not Stephen, but Mark Spector. So he's not in the full Moon Knight gear, but he definitely has the mask and he wears the full white suit. And that's like the detective version of him. So he
Hmm.
can still fight and hold his own, but like that, when he's in his Mr. Knight persona, that's when he's talking real slick, when he's looking for clues, figuring shit out, and being the detective,
And he's
akin
wearing
to
the Moon
Batman.
Knight mask at that point.
Yeah, he's wearing the Moon Knight mask, but instead of having the full costume on, he has a white suit, and
Oh,
we've
that's
seen
cool.
that in the trailers briefly. So I'm excited for that. That's like my favorite iteration of the Moon Knight character.
Well, that's cool. So, you think they're going to go into the kind of the backstory of Mark and maybe how he become Moon Knight, since they didn't really talk about it?
I think that they'll give us glimpses and flashbacks, but like I said, it's only 6 episodes, so we got 5 episodes left. They don't have a lot of time to really go into a lot of that stuff, so I'm really curious to see how they're going to reconcile this. So like I said before, man, I'm just super excited to see them, try some shit out, man. I just want to see what they're going to do with the character. I don't really know. I haven't seen any of the newer episodes, so I don't know how that's going to go. But I am excited 100% to see how they're going to do.
Who is the like? I don't know how to word it. Who would be the main person? Like, who was first? Is Mark the first one, and then he had the alter personalities
Yeah,
with Steven and them?
Mark's the first one, and he made a bunch of personas up to help him in his crusade as Moon Knight.
Okay.
And then over time, he starts kind of losing grip on reality and has full blown dissociative identity disorder. He has a psychotic break, and then all those personas are very different. They have their own ways to walk, speak, everything. So
Huh.
yeah,
Well,
Mark. To answer the question though, yeah, Mark is the first,
well, maybe that's why
and
Steven
we
has the accent then. Like you said, different ways to speak. Maybe Steven has an accent and Mark doesn't, or whatever. Well, I mean, I guess he kind of didn't, anyways. I think he did speak differently. Now I think about it.
I think for the sake of the show, he had to find like he had to have a little safe haven, so he chose London, and Steven had an accent to kind of blend in more. That makes sense to me. I don't know if that's what they're gonna do with it, but like I said, that just kind of makes sense. So I figured that's why they're doing it. But I am really glad that they kind of made fun of that in the show itself because that was a question I had. Like, why does he have an accent? I don't really understand, and I'm really glad that that was brought up in the show for sure.
So, how close am I on I guess, his villains? Are they Egyptian
Arthur
gods,
character.
possibly?
Well, we've already sorry, Ethan Hawke's character already told us that he works like the goddess that he worships works through him as he judges people, and he's trying to get that goddess here on the real world so that she can judge like everybody all at the same time. And when he went to go, she judges you before you die is her whole thing. And when he went
I
to
thought that was
judge
Anubis from Egyptian gods. Isn't
so
Anubis the one that judges?
Anubis judges your what is it? Your soul, I want to say, or
Oh,
your heart.
okay.
Yeah, that is correct. But her whole thing is like she takes your soul, she eats your soul if you weren't like a good person, essentially. So he wants her to come because that goddess is that deity is supposed to be female, is represents as female. So
Hmm.
um, come here, judge everyone, eat all the souls of the wicked. Essentially, is what's happening. And I think they're kind of mixing and matching some things too. Like I don't really know. Marvel has a tendency to kind of take pieces that they like of things and then leave pieces of things they don't like for the cinematic universe. So it's kind of hard to say, but that's the general idea of what I'm believing is going to happen. But Ethan Hawke's character, like I think that they're using him for that in particular, and we'll, like I said, we'll see how that goes. I'm excited to see how that goes. Like I really don't know what they're gonna do with it, but I'm excited to see it myself. So
Okay.
I'm excited.
So I have two things in closing on Moon Knight, and then we'll move on to the next topic. First, I
Yeah.
want to say I think Oscar Isaac is doing a fantastic job. One episode in, I mean, he could completely drop the ball the other five. I really doubt he does. I have a pretty decent amount of faith in him that he's going to continue to kill it. I really like what he's doing so far.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you do too, based on the comments you've made. But I
Yeah.
think he's doing awesome, and I'm excited to see him continue being Moon Knight.
Absolutely. Like I think that it's a great casting choice, and he looks pretty ambiguous as far as what his nationality is in the show so far. So I think that that was all taken into consideration, aside from him just being a fantastic actor to begin with. I'm really, I'll say this for him. I'm really excited to see him like interact with other Marvel characters, just because I like Oscar Isaac so much as an actor. But aside from that, um, it's really cool just seeing street level heroes out there again, man. Like we haven't had Daredevil in a while, and all those other characters from the Netflix series, which have just come back. But I'm just excited to see some street level heroes doing their street level thing, man. Like I
Yeah.
missed that.
I did
And this
get
show, like,
Daredevil-ish vibes kind of from this. I know it's completely different kind of style, but I kind of got that like I don't want it like dirty, gritty in certain parts vibe, and I like that. Kind of like you said, street level, little. I don't know the darker. I don't know. I was really happy with it, but I did get that vibe, so I'm stoked.
I agree with you on that. I'm like I said, I'm just excited to see more of that. It's we only got 5 episodes left, 5 weeks more of this going on. I'm excited to talk about it each week. I'm excited to see how they fix this, not fix, but expand. I'm excited to see how they expand this, and it's just good to see that kind of character again finally. And Moon Knight has been a cult favorite character for a while. He's a lot of people's favorite character. He's been akin to Batman for a while, and I mean, like, it's obvious. Like they just took the persona of Batman. Bruce Wayne's clearly crazy because he dresses up like a bat at night and uses all his money to do this. So they took that and made it white instead. Like not the his nationality, just like his costume is white. There's a lot of cape and moon imagery akin to Batman, of course, and they just made him kind of crazy, like legit. Instead of talking about Batman being possibly crazy and all that, they just made another Batman that was crazy. So it works out. So I'm really excited, man. I hope it does well, and I hope we get more sooner rather than later.
I hope they do come up with more seasons. I don't know if that's something they're already discussing or they've talked about, but I mean, it sounds like there's enough content with him being around since what, like 75 or something, that
Yeah.
they could definitely make more content around him or even have team ups like you said. So that would be really awesome to see. I'm down to see more, and I'm excited to talk about it each week and or as we get more episodes and stuff in. My other question for you and closing: if one was wanting to start reading Moon Knight or get into the Moon Knight comics, do you have a recommendation or somewhere what they should check out as like an
Yeah.
intro?
I think that if you want to start reading Moon Knight and you really want to understand the character, but you don't want to go all the way back to the beginning, you need to read Jeff Lemire's run of Moon Knight.
Okay.
I can't remember like what it's called off the top of my head. Um, Dang, I really wish I could remember that, but it's Jeff Lemire's run on the character. That's where you want to start. I believe it's Moon Knight Volume 3. It's Moon Knight Volume 3. If you start reading from Volume 3, Jeff Lemire's run up until the current run that we have right now, you're solid. That's what you want. You
Okay.
don't need to read the other stuff. You just need that.
All right. Sweet. Put you on the spot and you knocked it out of the park. So awesome.
Thanks, man.
So
It's 14 issues. I do know that much because I remember thinking that it was only going to be 7 and it was 14. So it's 14 issues. It's all collected in one volume called Volume 3. Read that and then read what's after that. Brian Michael Bendis had a run before that when he was like just a schizophrenic. I mean, if you're a hardcore Moon Knight fan, that's cool to read. But if you're coming into it, you absolutely want to start with Lemire's run, read that, and then read what's current right now, and you're set. That's all you need.
okay. Sweet. Well, thank you. Awesome. And I will, I guess, in that segment, and we're gonna move on first. I'm gonna get me a little
Whiskey!
Well, it says whiskey, but I have beer, so sorry. But it looks beautiful on camera. So if you're watching on YouTube, there you go. But my shirt actually ties in to our next topic. Let me take a sip and we will tell you. That's a tasty beverage. Tasty beverage. Our next topic, it was announced, or I'm guessing it was announced, but it come out that Stephen King's It will now be getting a prequel series on HBO Max set in the 1960s titled Welcome to Derry. And if you see from my shirt, obviously we all float down here, and I am a horror fan, as some of you know, of course. And I'm pretty interested in this and pretty excited about it, actually. What do you think?
Any excuse to get more like horror, just in horror media, I'm all for it. I really enjoyed the first It film, like of 2017. I really enjoyed
Agreed.
that. Um, I think Chapter Two had some really good moments. As a film, I think as a whole it was fine. I just didn't really care for the. Ironically, I didn't care for the ending too much. But yeah, man, I was super excited. I was super excited to hear that news. I want more Pennywise. Do we need a prequel? No. If you read the book, then you know what's going on. But not everybody likes to read, and that's a giant book. I remember when I
Yeah.
actually did read that son of a bitch. I was like, this is one of the greatest achievements of my life, is actually reading
How many
this.
pages is it? I know
So
it's huge.
geez, I'm not gonna lie to you, man. I don't remember how many pages that book is, but it's a lot. It's a lot. Like, I think how many pages is that book? I think it's like one. You know, I do know how many pages it is. I lied to you. It's 1,138 pages long. It's ridiculous.
God. Okay. Good Lord.
Yeah, seriously. But I'm super excited to see that. Andy Muschietti is executive producer, which honestly, in it doesn't mean anything. It just means that he's making money off of it. They haven't confirmed Bill Skarsgård yet to return as the titular character. So, I mean, we don't know if he's going to return as Pennywise. We don't even know if he's going to be Pennywise the day. You know what? Actually, it makes sense. He'll probably be Bob Gray in this, since it's in the 60s, and he'll probably have moments where he's Pennywise, but his costume or whatever might look a little different because it's before. It's like 2 decades before the actual
Wait,
films.
who's Bob
So
Gray? I've never read the book, actually.
Bob Gray is another persona that Pennywise uses. It's his human persona.
Oh. Oh, is that the
We
one
saw,
from the old timey picture they have? Where it's like
yeah,
him in front of like a circus or something? Do you know what I'm
that's
talking about?
right. So I know exactly what you're talking about. That's what I was gonna say. When you saw him as a human in pictures, and then when he was, you like essentially carving his makeup off in the second movie, when he was talking to Beverly, I want to say,
I think so.
that's where that comes from. So yeah, that's his Bob Gray persona.
I will say you made reference you really like the first one. I agree. I love the way the first movie was. I
Mhm.
like how it was shot. It had more of like an older feel to it, and I like the way it was done. I think the casting was fantastic for the second one. I think
Uh-huh.
there was cool parts. I think it was too much unnecessary CGI stuff with Pennywise. I thought Skarsgård in the first one did a great job being creepy, just him. Like the drool, all, like the eyes, all that stuff. I would much rather have had him doing that in the second one and having more just him being creepy on his own than CGI. Personally, that was like my huge gripe with the second one.
Absolutely. That's kind of going to be the gripe with every horror movie, especially in recent memory. Like it's always better if they use practical effects. CGI should be used to enhance, not to make
Yeah.
these scenes. I 100% believe that. And then the story in general just wasn't nearly as strong, and it's very rare, damn near impossible for films in general to have kid actors that are good, for one, because they're kids, man. You know, they don't have the experience just yet. But also, it's very hard, near impossible, for these films to have kid actors that outperform the adults. And I think that with the script for the first part of the story, the kids just had more to work with, man. They just had more.
The kids
They
crushed
had
it.
more.
They were fantastic. I
Yeah,
thought.
they just had more to do, man. And like I said, it's not a fault to the adult actors. I think that's really just a script thing. I think the script wasn't as strong, and that's just how it is. You know, we everybody had standout moments. I think everybody did a fantastic job. I love to see them do their thing for sure. I would never say that it wasn't good. It just wasn't as good as the
Right.
first one. And that's just like I said, it's because the script wasn't nearly as strong, man. So, you know, when you got a script that's super strong, it's hard to fuck it up unless your actors are just, you know, really bad.
Yeah.
Thankfully, their actors were really good. So it just worked, and I really like to see it. I hope to see it more. And I want to see Bill Skarsgård come back and do more stuff.
I do
I
too.
think he'd be great.
The second one wasn't Boo Boo Shoes, that's for sure. It wasn't Boo Boo Shoes, but the first one to set a bar so high on how good it was that I did leave, and I was like, it didn't meet it for me. It didn't hit that bar, you know? And I had high expectations of the casting. I am excited about the series, though. I didn't really know. I just figured that was, I don't really know what that was with him as a human form. I didn't know he had different forms. It makes sense. I know he dons Pennywise because obviously clowns, kids, he prefers to eat kids, all that stuff. But this is taking place in the 60s. When does it start? Is it 70s or is it late 60s? When are they kids?
So in the movie storyline, it takes place um, in the 80s. Yeah, it's in
It's
the
80s.
80s. Yeah.
Wait, no, when they're that's the well, which movie? Are we talking about the TV series?
No, I'm not talking about the 90s TV series. I'm talking about the
Okay.
movie that came out in
Gotcha.
2017. That one takes place in the 80s because when we pick up on the second part of that came out in what 2019,
Yeah.
then we're in it's like 2013 or 14, I believe, when that movie came out. I can't 17. 2000, I can't remember. Sorry, I honestly can't remember the time right now, but it's in the 80s when they're kids
Okay.
in that version of the story. But in the story in the book and the one from the television movie that we saw in the 90s, then when they're kids, that's in the 50s. Yeah, it's in the 50s.
Okay. So the series is going to take place in the 60s, though, right? It says roughly
Yeah.
2 decades before the events of It Chapter 1. And he'll emerge from his 27-year-long hibernation to come out in the 60s. And then possibly a different iteration of him. Bob Gray, Pennywise. Interesting. Are we going to see the giant space turtle?
Maturin, I don't know, man. We've never really actually seen that character. We've seen
Some people are like, what in the hell are you talking about? We're talking about a scary clown, and now you're talking about a space turtle. For those that don't know, in the book, it's actually in the books. And apparently Pennywise hates it. Hates a
yeah,
space
man.
turtle.
I don't. I'm not even gonna go into all of that right now. Like that's definitely a part of the books. And if you've read those, it would make sense. That's why there's so much turtle imagery in general. When you see at least the newer movies for sure, and then I think a couple of scenes in the older one from the 90s. But like essentially Maturin like is a giant space turtle entity that kind of vomits up the universe. And Pennywise is essentially like a big you know what, man? Like that's a whole story for another day because it's a
That's
lot,
some
man.
crazy stuff, is what that is. Like, just think
It
about
is,
what you
man. It's
just
called the
said. Here
macrovert.
is a clown that eats kids and has like deadlights and stuff, right? And then you have a turtle who vomited up the entire universe, a space turtle. What? Like, really?
Yeah, man. So Pennywise is essentially the Deadlights, and man, that's like his true form. And if you see the Deadlights, like it turns you insane. So that's really cool, man. It's a lot. Like I said, it's a lot. There's more to Pennywise than just being a clown and killing kids. Like it's a lot more to that. Um, so I don't really know how to explain that in a way that won't take a little while. So maybe we'll talk about that on the next episode.
Yeah. Well, definitely. I'm sure we'll bring this back up as we get more information about the show, or even a release date, or anything like that. Do you want to lead us into our next segment, Dan? We'll wrap that one in a.
You know what? I wouldn't mind. I'll go ahead and start that up. So the next segment is it's not something that you haven't heard. It's something that everybody has already talked about. Now it's our turn to talk about it.
And
We're talking about the slap. We're talking about the slap heard around the world. We're talking about the Oscars and Will Smith walking calmly on stage and slapping the damn taste out of Chris Rock's mouth for speaking ill, I guess, of Jada, which is Will Smith's wife. And man, I remember like I didn't watch the Oscars. I don't care to watch that. It's just not really my thing. Most of the movies that are nominated for Oscars, I don't necessarily care about too much because they're Oscar bait films. You know what I mean? They're made specifically for these awards. It feels like. But with that said, Chris Rock made a joke about Jada's bald head. It wasn't even a funny joke. It wasn't a good joke either. And he pretty much said to her, like I'm paraphrasing, but he was like, "Jada, I love you. G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it." And everybody's laughing. Will Smith's laughing. Jada's doing like this mega eye roll. And then after that, we just cut to Will Smith walking on stage very calmly, smiling. And then Chris Rock's like, "Uh-oh," and he's getting ready to keep talking. And Will Smith goes up. It looks like he's going to shake his hand. He slaps the shit out of Chris Rock. And then Chris Rock just says, "Wow. Wow. Will Smith just slapped the shit out of me."
Which
and
they censored. They censored it.
They censored here in America, but if you were, fortunate enough
Japanese or
to watch
Australian,
it,
I think, were uncensored.
yeah, definitely uncensored. So, and it lagged too here in the U.S. So, if you watch the other versions of it, you see Will Smith goes back to his seat and he yells, "Keep my wife's name out your effing mouth," and then Chris Rock says, "Dude, I'm going to." Will Smith says it again, even harder with the head bob and everything. And after that, Chris Rock composes himself and then goes back to it. And the reason why I'm bringing that up, the reason why we are bringing that up at all, is because one, it's like hilarious to see something like this from celebrities, right? The people who we're supposed to be looking up to, who we want to be like, all that stuff. But I mean, like people, it's what's hilarious about it. Like the act itself was not hilarious, not funny. Don't condone violence in any form. But seeing somebody like Will Smith, right, walk on stage, slap a person, walk back to his seat, talk shit, and then nothing happens, like that's crazy, right? That's
and then
crazy.
won an award like an hour and something later.
Yeah, won an Oscar, bro. Won an Oscar.
After.
Here's the thing. Yeah, right after that, dude. It's crazy. But here's the thing, like there's two sides. And this is kind of crazy to me, but there are two sides. There are people who are like, Will Smith was in the right. He totally justified in slapping Chris Rock, blah blah blah. And then the other side says, no, we don't condone violence. That wasn't okay. He shouldn't have done it. Blah blah blah. And I mean, I know that nobody really cares what I think about it, and that's fine. That's totally fine. I'm gonna tell you anyway what I think about it, but I get it. So Chris Rock, like, no matter what he said words, right? And I think it would be different if he got on stage and was calling Jada some crazy stuff, like dropping an N word with a hard R or something like that. That makes more sense to me. That makes more sense to me for the reaction to be what it was. But he said, G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it. Will Smith walks up, slaps shit out of him, and then walks back to his seat, heckles him, and then we're done. Absolutely not, dude. Like, in my opinion, you go on stage at the Oscars, bro, at the Oscars, and you slap somebody in the face. No, man, the cops are getting called. You're getting put out. They're gonna take your Oscar away if you were a winner. Like that's insane to me. And Chris Rock, on the other hand, composes himself. He keeps going with the show like nothing happens, and then releases a statement later apologizing to the three hosts of the show, Wanda Sykes, Amy Schumer, and gosh, I feel really bad for not being able to remember the last person on this, and I'm really sorry I can't remember her name right now, but it's just because I'm like on a thing on my soapbox. But like the fact that that was something that happened and no consequence came from it, I think that's crazy. I love Will Smith. I'm always gonna like Will Smith. I like a majority of his work. Um, I like what he does. Well, like at least what his PR team does for people. Um, I do. I really like that stuff. And I know that Will Smith's going through a lot. I know that his marriage is very, very, very toxic because the world knows that his marriage is very toxic. Uh, so we know that. And I think that we just saw Will Smith going through some shit, and he walked on stage, slapped a man, and his PR team immediately apologized the next day. Like, you know, for a fact, that wasn't Will Smith writing that message and posting it on all his social medias and all that. His PR team admits that that was wrong, all of that. And the fact, like I said, the fact that he does that and there's no repercussion from it. I'm not saying like we should Bill Cosby this guy. I'm not saying take all of his stuff off the air, take all his money. You know, I'm not even saying take his Oscar. Like no. But on the other hand, you have, like, for an example, Ezra Miller, another actor, famous actor, not Will Smith famous for sure, and he's also not black, but he's another actor. This dude stays in trouble, right? We already got the Flash movie to be pushed back several times because he had, like, assaulted a fan, and then I think he had like a drunken disorderly conduct on this last one. All that said, like, this man is getting arrested, he's getting blackballed. You know, they still got him in this Harry Potter Crimes of Grindelwald movie or whatever, like, but we know what's going on. He's been arrested. Like, he's going to get blackballed after the Flash movie eventually comes out, whenever that's going to fucking be. But like, Will Smith slaps a dude and it's like, oh man, he didn't like that joke. It's okay. I just think that's a lot. I think that sets a bad precedent for the time that we live in right now. That's really bad. I think that with all the stuff that is happening to people of color in general right now, especially with it being such a heated time, like right after the elections and all that shit, like, this is not the time for any of us, especially people like as prolific as Will Smith, right? This is not a time for us to be on stage slapping the shit out of people.
It's uncharacteristic for
people
him
out.
too. It's super out of Will Smith's character, I feel like.
I mean, yeah, like anybody who likes Will Smith or has seen Will Smith since the fucking 90s would say the exact same thing, myself included. It is very uncharacteristic.
He's usually real chill and easygoing and laughing and like cutting jokes, and for him to walk up, it was kind of weird to me how it happened. Because, like, if you've ever got to that boiling point, this man walked up, like you said, calmly. Like, not even, like, I don't know, looking like he's preparing for fight. He calmly walked up there, smacked shit out of him, calmly walked off. It wasn't like, come up there and swing on him. He just open hand smacked the piss out of Chris Rock and walked off. I was like,
yeah, he did, man.
That's weird. Like, I don't know. It was kind of weird how it all went down.
Here's the other thing too, man. Like, I don't want to like dwell on this too long, but I'll say this. No matter what happens to Will Smith, and it seems like nothing's going to happen.
Academy's investigating, aren't they?
I don't even know. Like, I'm trying not to keep up with this.
They're doing, I saw something about I don't know if it's like banning him or something, but supposedly the Academy's looking into it because they do not condone the violence and the stuff that happened. And apparently they asked him to leave also after the incident, and Will Smith said no.
Yeah, he straight up refused. And like, that information didn't come out until like 2 days later, I want to say.
Yeah.
But you know, but it happened, right? So he totally said no, he wasn't leaving and all that. And I think that's insane, right? But with all of that said, like, it doesn't matter what side you're on, because I think the fact that people are picking sides is kind of crazy, even though I just kind of got on the soapbox and pledged why I think that's not okay. Like, Chris Rock is a comedian, and I know people are like, oh man, he's a comedian, he's doing his job and blah, 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 which I agree with, but it's also like, it doesn't matter. Like, he got on stage, he was doing his job, regardless of what that job was. He got the shit slapped out of him, and then he didn't press charges. He didn't say anything negative to Will Smith. He didn't fight back, which I'm going to be honest with you, man. Like, if that were me and somebody walked on stage and slapped the shit out of me, regardless of what I said, we're fighting. There's no, oh man, I can't, no, none of that. We're fighting. And
he
then
turned
the
the other
whole
cheek
show is shut
and
down.
was a professional and kept going.
Yeah, he was a professional and he kept going, and that's great. And he apologized to people because at the end of the day, no matter how you slice this dude, like Will Smith's never going to be remembered for winning an Oscar in King Richard. Chris Rock is forever. He's immortalized now as the guy who got the shit slapped out of him at the Oscars in front of the world. Like I think Jim Carrey said that he said that he thought that that was sickening. He thinks that Hollywood is spineless. He thinks that if it were him, he would have sued Will Smith the next day for like $2 million because his reputation is now over. Which I mean, yeah, his reputation is over. But and Will Smith's just another meme. He was already one of the most memed human beings, one of the most memed celebrities to begin with after
Yep.
the whole entanglement thing that Chris Rock didn't even bring up, right? He was already so memed for that. And the other thing that's crazy about that to me is now Will Smith is forever going to be known as the guy who walked on stage and slapped somebody. Like there's the memes are rolling out like within 10 minutes, dude. There's videos, there's memes, it's all
Oh,
kinds,
the
there's
internet blew up
gifs.
with it.
Yeah, man. That's all anybody's going to remember about the Oscars forever until something else crazy happens. That's what we're going to remember
Do you
forever.
do you think this was a publicity stunt? There's been rumors
No.
that obviously, like you
No.
said, you don't watch the Oscars. I generally don't either, unless for some reason I'm like, I want to see if this movie does well, which most time I'm not really paying attention. I'll look and see who the winners were, but I'm not gonna sit there and actually watch the show usually. Do you think this was a publicity? Because immediately after it happened, you know their viewer rating, which I don't have the numbers, but you know it had to spike. Like clicks,
To answer your
views,
question, no,
everything.
not at all. I don't think that at all. I don't buy that at all. No, I think that Will Smith, like I said, going through some shit, walked on stage, and I think he was slapping everything that he's going through out of Chris Rock's mouth, who isn't involved with any of that stuff. I think it's really unfortunate for both parties involved. I think that it was not for that at all. I think that that really happened. He really slapped the shit out of this grown man as another grown man, open hand, open palm. And I think that the fact that we are setting the precedent, like you can do that. You can go on stage and slap a person, regardless of what they said. They said words, right? They said fucking words. He didn't touch anybody. He said words. So the fact that he went on stage and slapped the shit out of him and nothing happened about it, nothing happened for it, at least not up until now anyway, that's crazy because now that's letting the world, at least the US, know that if you go to a comedy show and you're getting roasted because you're at a comedy show, you can just fucking fight the comedian and be fine. That's what the president has said. No matter what anybody says, that is the president that is set. So if it'd be different if they were on the street or if Chris Rock was at Will Smith's house or if they were at like a dinner or something, it'd be different. But they were at the Oscars. So now a televised event, heavily televised event. So we can just go and slap the shit out of people now. That's the rule. That's the goal. That's what we can do. That's crazy.
There's crazy
So I mean,
theories, kind of like I was saying about the stage. Like Mrs. Sin, I swear it's like every other day she's coming in with another one. She's like, Jada's got him. So I don't know. She'll come in with these crazy theories. I'm like, what? And she's like, yeah, that's what they're saying. I'm like, what are you talking about? I honestly, I think he just hit a boiling point. I think that's what it was. I think he hit a boiling point,
yeah, man.
and it may not have necessarily, because I mean, it's shown like he's laughing at first. It may not necessarily hit right away, like he was kind of laughing, but then when he looked over and she probably rolled her eyes and he was like, oh shit, here we go, kind of thing. And then he's like, I'm just snapped, kind of thing.
I
But
mean, yeah, I agree. Like, I think the general consensus is that Will Smith's going through some shit. He broke, walked on stage, slapped the guy. Like, I don't think anybody's disputing that.
yeah,
I don't think anybody's disputing what happened. I don't think that anybody that's in their right mind, at least, thinks that that was for show. Why? Why would Will Smith do that for show when he's about to win an Oscar, when he is nominated for an Oscar, when everybody who worked on this fucking movie, their entire their entire life's work was about to be immortalized forever with this Oscar win? Why would he jeopardize all of that for not just himself, but all of these other people? Why justify that for some publicity. It just doesn't make sense
Yeah.
because it's nonsensical. It's super, super nonsensical. It doesn't make sense. I think that that's what people are telling themselves to sweep it under the rug, to make it make sense for them, because it's Will Smith. He doesn't do that. Will Smith would never just slap a guy in the face, but like he fucking did. He totally did, man. I think that this is a good example of everybody having a breaking point, that Will Smith is human like the rest of us.
I was about to say the same thing, that they're all human. They're celebrities, but they're human at the end of the day. Like,
yeah,
everybody
absolutely.
has a breaking point.
Now, all that said, I still think it's fucked up. I still think that if I was Chris Rock, I don't even care if Will Smith beat the shit out of me. Like, I'm being honest. I'd rather Will Smith beat my ass on stage than him open palm slap me and me not do anything. And I'm not saying Chris Rock is a pussy for not hitting him back. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying Chris Rock is infinitely more professional than I could ever be. Because if it were me, I would be immortalized for the guy who either beat the shit out of or got his ass kicked by Will Smith. It would be one of the two. Hopefully not the latter, but it would be one of the two. And that's just because I know who I am at the end of the day. I know who I am as a person at the end of the day, and that's the only thing that it could be for me. And then, that's, like I said, we talked about it in tandem. I'm sure we will talk about it in tandem, but that's just how I feel. I just feel like that's insane. I think that the president's all off now. I think that comedians already have to worry about hecklers. And like I said, that happening is just, that's crazy, dude. It's crazy for so many reasons. And the only people I think that don't understand that right now are people who, one, don't care because it didn't happen to them, which I get. And then, people who just haven't experienced enough to understand like how or why this is very much a bad thing. How many more like people of color you think they're going to invite to the fucking Oscars now, that the stereotype that's been going on for centuries is that black people are angry and that all we want to do is cause violence and blah, blah, blah. And then you get somebody like Will Smith, right, who's supposed to be the fucking precipice of certain, generations of black people or people of color. And then he's on stage slapping the fucking shit out of somebody. Like, that's crazy to me. Like I said, dude, I think that if Chris Rock assaulted Jada, I think that if Chris Rock started talking about their marriage crazily, like I think if it was something like that, I would be more subdued in my thoughts on this. But because it was like I said at the beginning of this, man, it was a stupid joke. It wasn't funny at all. It didn't land with like half of the audience.
And most people don't even know what G.I. Jane was. I'm pretty sure that was Demi Moore, I think.
Yeah.
Where she shaved her head and she was in the army.
Bro.
So
yeah.
And if you've been living under a rock and you don't know, the reason it was such a sore subject, Jada is dealing with, I believe it's called alopecia or something like that. I'll probably mispronounce it.
Alopecia, yeah.
And pretty much it causes hair loss. And so she buzzes her hair, like her hair's buzzed really short. So it's a disease that she's dealing with, and it's a sore subject. And the G.I. Jane joke was directed towards that. If for some reason you didn't understand what was going on, so there you go. That was just a little backstory. But like you said, it didn't land. I mean, it didn't really get a response. It wasn't like, oh, that's funny, haha.
Exactly. And I think Chris Rock even says that in the response to Will slapping him. He was like, dude, it was a G.I. Jane joke. And then Will Smith again yells, keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth. Like, I think that even Chris Rock was like, out of all the things I could have said, that's what you hit me over. And like I said, man, it's crazy. I agree with that, with Chris Rock saying that. It's just like, it's just not okay, man. It's not okay.
So in closing for that, I just want to say I kind of have a funny story for how, it's not really a funny story. It's ironic. There we go. Of how I found out. Like I said, I wasn't watching the Oscars. Of all things, me and the missus were watching King Richard that night when it happened. And I happened to look at Twitter during the movie and saw, Will slapping him. I was like, wait, did that really just happen? And of course, like I had to go look stuff and I was like, oh shit, that just actually happened. Like, he really just slapped shit up. And then he won an award for King Richard, and I was like, wow, this is kind of ironic. Here I am watching the movie, which he does an awesome job in, by the way. It's a good movie. But I was like, this is kind of weird. I'm watching the movie he's there for, and that happens. But yeah. So that was my kind of ironic story. But I guess we're going to wrap it up. We're right at an hour episode. We've been doing much better as of late. So hopefully you guys enjoy it. I feel like an hour is the sweet spot for the podcast. And I feel like this is like kind of our magic area. That really didn't make sense. But yeah. So we're going to move on to last call, boys.
Pass the whiskey.
And if you pass the whiskey for your final call, last call, we have a question this week coming in from the one and only The Inside. On The Inside, he is a longtime viewer of my stream. He's been around, God, since I started creating content, probably way back when. He's been around for a long, long time, extremely loyal, and he dropped a lovely question for us that I believe Christian will be able to help us out with. So, he says, I mean, we all know I am the dream guest. Oh, Lord. The white whale for the Sippin With Sin boys. Oh, gosh. Here we go. All right. This is already starting bad. My question is, for someone novice to comics, how does one get started? Is there a good site to read issues? A comic shop to go to? Or what's the best way to consume comics? Christian, this is a perfect question for you. This is your expertise.
All right. So there's no clear-cut one answer for this. I think if you live in a place that has a local comic book shop, that's definitely where you want to start to buy comics and start reading them. The library is a good place to see what you're into for comics. Like, some people don't like superhero comics. Some people like horror comics. Some people like, drama. Some people, it's all different types of stories that you can read.
The library has comics?
Yeah, the library totally has comics. There's a whole section for it in the library.
I feel like my library doesn't have comics.
Every single library should have comics. I think that's like a staple at this point.
Now I want to go to my library and see if it has comics. I swear as a kid, I never noticed comics. Our library had a sweet freaking castle like next to the kid books. And so I'd always go in there and had like pillows and stuff. It was perfect. You get a book and you go chill. Yeah, so I probably just wasn't paying attention.
You weren't. I totally checked out many comics from the library when I was a kid. And I love the library. I just got a library card not too long ago, like a month or so ago. And I'm, checking books out. I checked out a comic that I'm currently reading right now. It's pretty good. There's so many different types of comics to read because comics are not just for children. For those of you who didn't know that. With that said, once you kind of figure out what comics you're into, then that's when you start figuring out where you want to go to buy. Obviously, you can read comics online for sure through certain sites that I can't mention here because they're not strictly speaking legal. And I don't want to really promote that because I would love you to promote or to, help out your local comic book shop if you have one. I unfortunately don't have a comic book shop that is local to me in my area of Tennessee right now. And there's Rick's Comic City, but that's like way out of the way for me. So I can't really get there. So I've been buying stuff online a lot. There's a whole comic book community on Instagram that I use. And the first off the top of my head, I use a guy, his handle is Dawn of the Dad Comics on Instagram. And I'll go to him to get stuff. He specializes in older comics, but I like older comics. So that's like a great thing to do. So I go to him for a lot of stuff. He's a really cool guy, easy to work with. Aside from that, of course, you have Comixology. Comixology has pretty much every comic that comes out on the site. So you can download the app, you can go to the website, you can start up a profile. You pay via Amazon, I want to say, and you can start reading that way. That's like the easiest way for anybody to just start reading comics 100%. So I would absolutely recommend Comixology. Marvel has their own thing. I can't remember I think it's called Marvel Now.
There's some paid sites too you can go to get comics digitally, right?
Yeah, of course. And that's kind of what I'm mentioning right now. Like DC has its own thing. There's an app called DC Universe. And if you download DC Universe and you subscribe to that, you get a plethora of DC comics. And I'm a DC fan, so that's perfect for me. But if you like Marvel, Marvel has their own site, which I believe is called Marvel Now. There's so many ways to do it, and then all the subsequent things have it too. So if you're really into Boom Studios, if you're really into Image, when an Image has some of my favorite stuff, it's got all the Spawn stuff, Gunslinger Spawn, it's got Invincible, even though that's finished now, it's all of that. So there's definitely places to go. But like I said at the beginning, if you don't know what you like to read comic-wise, start at the library. See what kind of books you like. And then once you do that, hit up Comixology. That's going to be the easiest place. It's user-friendly. Set up a profile. It's free to set up your profile. And then when you want to start buying stuff, you can do that. And that's what I recommend. If you don't mind reading stuff digitally, you can do that. And then obviously, if you want to support major corporations, you can go to Amazon for stuff. But I recommend local comic book shops. I recommend Comixology, and I recommend going to the library, man. That's what I think you should do.
Awesome. Well, thank you on the inside for the question. Again, guys, keep those questions coming. We've had some people posting in Gilded, and we would love for you, if you're listening to the podcast, to join our Gilded server. It is a great way not only to keep up with the podcast. There's a whole section about the podcast, including the last call questions, but there's a section for scary stories, for Sinister Tale stuff. We like to take stories from you guys as well. And then there's a lot of gaming news and other news there. You can talk and, converse with other people in the community as well. It's a great way to kind of link up and, all be under one roof, I guess, to speak. But that's going to do it for this episode, for episode 7, I believe this is. And appreciate you all listening. And it's been a fun one. A lot of good topics. I am excited to watch more Moon Knight. I'm not going to lie. And yeah. Christian, any final thoughts?
Final thoughts. I'm excited, like I said, to see more Moon Knight like you are. Don't go around physically assaulting people. That's never okay. And read more comics, of course.
Okay. All right. And as always, if you guys want to find us, Sippin With Sin on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. And then if you would like to watch the video version of this podcast, it is over on my personal YouTube. You can just look up IamSinister on YouTube and go check it out there. It's posted every Wednesday at 8 a.m. Same as when the episodes drop, and they drop on Apple, on Spotify, on Google Podcasts, and many, many more. So definitely continue to show support. Rate it 5 stars. Subscribe, follow, whatever it is. We do appreciate it. Keep doing it. It helps us more than you know. And if you want to find me on social media, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, just said YouTube, all that stuff. Everything except YouTube. IamSinister TV. YouTube is IamSinister. And then I'm streaming every morning over on on Facebook. God, I'm streaming on Facebook. I'm fumbling my words. It is definitely in the podcast. Streaming on Facebook in the mornings, fb.gg/IamSinisterTV. And then I also stream some on Twitch, twitch.tv/IamSinisterTV. And we've been doing some TikTok lives, playing some fun games and hanging out over there. It's definitely a different experience, but it's been fun. Meet new people and stuff over there. Just IamSinisterTV over there as well on TikTok Live. Christian, where can the lovely people find you?
You guys can find me on Instagram and on TikTok at Ven and Ink. That's VEN and Ink. And that's the only place you can really find me, those 2 places. I don't really post anywhere else, unfortunately. I post my artwork on Instagram, and sometimes you can see my face. And then on TikTok, I usually just post time-lapse videos of said artwork. So that's where you can come find me.
All right. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. Definitely let us know. Again, we like to hear your feedback on if there's something you would like us to talk about, or a segment you would like, or like I said, last call questions or Sinister Tale things. Definitely give us stuff or feedback. We like feedback. But rate, share, subscribe, follow, all that good stuff. Christian, do you want to close us out? Close it down.
Sure. Thank you guys so much for supporting us, listening to another episode, me ranting, Sin ranting. Don't forget, you can find us all at Sipping With Sin. Of course, you can find Sin himself at Sipping With Sin. You can find me at Ven and Ink. Guys, thank you again so much. Please leave a 5-star if you can. And don't forget, don't get gutted.
That's right. See you guys later.